It's another week's gone by, and it's Blog 5. We're in Canterbury in the loft again, and it's 25th of July, Saturday, and it's just about 3:15. And take it away, Sarah.
Well, it's nice to see you as usual. So today I'm going to talk about an experience that I had with Garuda, if that's how you pronounce it.
Sounds good to me.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Garuda, but anyhow, it's I guess after I googled it after and found out it's a Indian Hindu god, something like that. I will speak about that, and I wanted to speak about some experiences that I had within these last couple of days, and then do question and answer, and then I think it will be when we're at the conference we can go ahead and do a whole special there where I'll talk about a lot of very in-depth subjects. So this week I'm trying to put all of my energy towards what I'm going to talk about, speak about at the conference. So I just really want to speak a bit about my experiences and then answer questions, and that's will be the whole episode of the blog this week. So I did want to speak about attachments and how I believe that if you feel pain in certain parts of your body, if you focus there is a possibility that there's an entity or something trying to latch on there or latched onto there. I believe that a lot of physical illness or even what I call spiritual things, like spiritual disease, like depression and stuff like that, comes from being vamped of energy, having leeches, having different parasitic entities that are attached to you. So when I have any pain anywhere in my body, I will initially lay on my back and go to that spot. I bring myself to that spot. At first, I put myself in a state of relaxation, so I will just tell my body to let go. And I'll imagine like I'm in the water floating, or I'm floating in the clouds. And so I get this, like, I literally can feel it. I feel like a floating sort of feeling. And it's very, very high frequency. When you go there, you don't want anybody around you, by the way. You don't want any noise. You don't, because it'll hurt. Once you bring yourself there, it hits the vibration you're in and it'll hurt. It can literally hurt. So it's best to do it alone. I lay on my back and I do this, and I was having some pain in my third eye. I had a headache, and I could sense, this was like 2 days ago, I could sense that just with my third eye that there was something going on. And if I take magnesium usually gets rid of headaches. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed because I'm empathic, and I have to use magnesium quite a lot because of that, and it's just wonderful. I was at dinner last night and I had my magnesium dropper and just putting it in everybody's cups because it's amazing. It works wonders, and when I'm out, it really helps me to relax. And so when that didn't work, and some of the other things that I do didn't work, I knew that this headache was coming from, not because of the fact that there's something wrong with me, but there's something else. So I brought myself into that state, I put myself into that state, and immediately I felt something was attached to my third eye, and that's what was causing the headache. I could feel it tense, and I could feel like, literally, when I work on the places in my body, I will feel a heartbeat, like, sort of go to that place, or a sort of, like, I guess you could say a heartbeat. Sometimes it'll even twitch where I'm working on. So I literally felt like the in between the both hemispheres of the brain. I could feel where the third eye is, the pineal gland, and I could feel like it just like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really interesting. And I worked on it and worked on it and worked on it, and it was a bit of a battle. And then I felt like I released something from my third eye. And immediately as I did, the pain was gone. It was totally gone. There was no more headache. So I'm like, oh, this is good. So that was in the middle of the day. So then I'm like, yes, I've got whatever that was, you know. In life, I think that for people we love or people we're close to, we often will take on their energetic attachments to try to help them, or if they have problems or issues with entities. Not all that long ago, I had done that for some people close to me. And because I'm aware and I'm able to, I choose my battles wisely, but if I'm told by the universe to help, I will go and do it. And this is connected to that. This being I had encountered, by the way, that I'm going to speak about, this being I had encountered some years back, and I literally thought that it was over with. I believe that a lot of entities and a lot of what you would call the demons of old or whatever, they hide within the different frequencies. And I also believe that the angels and everything else does, fairies and everything else, and I will explain a bit more about that later. I was, so I finished my day up, and I felt quite well. And I'm at a point where when I go to sleep, I don't go to sleep, I astral travel, that's it. I'm perpetually astral travel every time I even lay down or access stuff, or I can get like remote view where I do not literally sleep. I don't think I get much sleep. But the thing is I'm always going out and doing stuff. So I was like, okay, so I go to rest, and then suddenly I was on some sort of cliff, and there was this being, and this is the same being that I encountered while dealing with Casbolt. It was a very, very interesting being, because it's something that I remember from previous worlds, and I'm getting goosebumps saying this, but I remember a previous world that was totally destroyed. But I as much as I remember higher dimensions, I remember incarnations on worlds, different incarnations, incarnation in Egypt. I was just like doing some work and remembering mine in India. So, but lately that's the one I've been focusing on, because that's been streaming through. But anyhow, I had thought that this being was gone, and I encountered this being, and it's a very, very powerful being, but I'm not afraid of it at all. And I noticed that I was on a cliff, and it was there, and it was thundering in my dream. And it's like I said, it's an interesting being, because as much as it's like serpent-like, or what you could call it an alpha draconis, it has like large bat wings and horns and stuff. It's almost the old depiction of what you call maybe the devil or something like that. This being is, I would say, I'm still trying to explore what exactly this is. I do know from my memories of previous world that these beings had invaded that world, and this is currently what we're having issues with here too. This was high rank in one, and it was the thing that had attached to my third eye and was trying to mess with me. So what happened is I was like on this cliff with it, and I was like, oh goodness, this thing is big, you know, it's really big. It's like, oh, I haven't encountered you in a while, and I'm like, okay, oh no, I don't really like encountering you. You're not the greatest thing to be around me like that. What are you doing? But I was not afraid of it, and these things throw fear at you, and it literally hit me so hard. I went flying over the ocean and literally went down into the depths of the ocean. Like I saw water closing over me, and it got dark, literally to the bottom of the ocean. It was like in my dream. And then as soon as I started going down, darkness started coming around me, of the water, like suddenly light came out of me, and I flew up, and I'm like, oh, okay. So then I saw it, and you know what, I realized looking at it too, I had a nice psychic battle with this being, and I noticed that it was being weakened, which is really, really good. And then my friend sent me an article about the Alpha Draconis and how they are now wanting to pull themselves out of the unit. They're asking that they can get out of here before the sun rays hit them, because that's going to be harmful for them. And it correlated to that, and it's very, very interesting, because I asked to take on this being years ago because it was messing with somebody that was close to me, and I kept seeing it, and I noticed that when I was doing lots of research, I noticed that it was in black magic. It was what they were really summoning this, and I noticed that it has other entities tied to it, other what you might call demons or entities. And we need to be aware of these things, because these things attack us psychically, and they try to bring us down in every level and drain us of our life force. And by us being awake, we can fight these things, and we can access angels and do all this stuff. We become the pilots of our own body, of our own consciousness. We no longer have things that are taking us over and trying to, like, use us. It obviously was trying to access my third eye and use, I believe, hijack my abilities. I believe people who have abilities to have issues because things try to hijack them and use them, and they're in peril if they don't take care of themselves and become pilots of themselves. They're in peril of having those sort of issues, because you have to realize there's great responsibility that comes with the abilities you have, and empaths or people who can remote view or do stuff like that. This does sound probably a bit scary for some people, but it's so self-empowering, because once you get yourself there, you're not scared of anything. You're like, you're a bit badass. You're like, I can take on anything, and it allows you also to take on anything in life. And coming from an abusive background like I did, this has allowed me to take on anything in life. It's allowed me to help people who are drug addicts, people who are dying, people who are suicidal. I've helped so many people out by simply empowering myself on a spiritual level, and that's also helped me empower myself on a physical level. I definitely do have probably 80% good days. I do have a couple bad days, but the thing is that we're in 3D, so we're experiencing both sides. It's always good to focus on the positive at least 80% of the time, 90% time, as much as you can at least. But you have to acknowledge still the darkness that's here too. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to ignore it and it's going to fix itself. No, you have to acknowledge it, find solutions, and that's how we'll fix it. But anyhow, that was my experience with that being, and I wanted to say, for people who are waking themselves up and who are actually learning how to astral travel, you know what? When you're saying that you're going to be the pilot of yourself, and these beings, they don't want you to be the pilot of yourself. Why do you think we have so much murder around the world? We have so much horrible things, so many horrible things happening. It's because of the fact that those people aren't pilots of their own body. They are hijacked, and the entities, they feed off of harming innocents and harming animals and harming others, from abuse to children, to abuse to animals, to abuse to even men who beat their wives or girlfriends. This is all that same consciousness, that same energy, those same entities that is feeding off every time somebody gets hurt. The thing for us is to stand up and empower ourselves and just take a stand against the abusers, rather than say, if we turn a blind eye and we just pray all the time, it's going to be okay, because that's not the truth. With this, I like to tell people to get self-empowered, and just, if you really work on empowering yourself, just go in with no fear. I was sometimes, if I'm having a bit of an issue, I will ask the angels to help me, or I'll ask higher beings to help me. And I don't think I'm ever sent anything that is too much for me, but I am sent things that are definitely tied to previous worlds, previous lives, and I think it's the most amazing experience that I could possibly have, and I'm acknowledging it. I'm also it's shown the strength of my soul that I can acknowledge these things rather than turn a blind eye to them. So that was my experience with that, and it's really, really interesting, because seeing that, I could say that the difference from years ago is that it seems like the darker beings are weakened, and that they're having a harder issue, and they're having harder times, and I do definitely see us going to much, much better frequencies in the future. I said this went around this winter, and then I read an article that somebody put out saying September. So I was like, okay, it was like last spring that I was saying this winter is going to be huge. I said this year a lot of stuff would go mainstream, and then this winter, and it looks like it is, which is a really good thing. My second experience after that, this happened within the space of a couple of days, 3 or 4 days. And by the way, I did want to say is that I access different timelines, different dimensions, everything like that. So it is so hard to put into words. My second experience was this. So after that, I just had a vision of a Pegasus sort of horse, and then I sort of mounted the Pegasus sort of horse. I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. So I had that vision. Then of course I went to bed, and I went to bed, and of course I'm pulled back into astral, like I said. This is the second experience I want to speak about, because I've had 3 in all. And suddenly it was like I went to sleep, and then I started astral, and it was like I was flying at faster than the speed of light. Everything was blurry. It was like flying through these dimensions, higher, higher, higher. And like, this is really, really, really amazing. But it's you know, and it's like energy, energy, energy. It's like almost like a comet. And then suddenly I said, okay, listen, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Then I felt like everything slowed down and stopped. And suddenly it stopped. And suddenly this beautiful sort of court mansion. It had, from different eras, it had all sorts of beautiful things in it. It appeared around me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is really interesting. It's very lavish. So, like, what's happening right now? And this man walks up to me. He has glowing eyes, and he's dressed in, you know, it was funny because they had like different time periods. He walks up to me. He says, welcome. We haven't seen you in such a long time. Welcome back. We've been waiting for you. Now, I didn't know what was quite happening. Sometimes when I do astral travel, and I'm very in touch with myself, or when things happen to me, my higher self, she knows what's going on. My soul knows what's going on, literally, and I'm here kind of listening to myself. But this instant, I didn't quite myself remember, and I was like thinking, okay. And they were like, he was like, it's so nice to see you. And he was like, my wife, she'll be very, very happy to see you. And I was in a long hallway where the mansion or court appeared around me. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So he said, you can stay. We'll appoint you a room during your brief stay here. And so he showed me a very nice room and said, this will be your room. And I initially was like, thank you, and very thankful to them for that. And I followed him, and then his wife came, and she was very happy to see me. She kept hugging me. And I actually figured out who his wife is and in real life. I cannot say her name, by the way, but it's very, very interesting. And it aligns to what I experienced after I Googled it. It aligns to what I experienced here. So I was walking with him and his wife through the hallway, and we walked to what seemed like a big maybe ballroom or a room where they do parties, and everything was very lavish, and there were all sorts of foods and all sorts of just everything you could imagine, sort of riches, and it was all in there. And I was just like, this is interesting. I wished to stay in my room, but I was being very cordial to them because they were very happy to see me. And I thought, okay, you know, I need to be very cordial because they really seemed very, very happy to see me. And they said it had been ages. I just looked around, and I noticed there was a lot of, you might say, like, people who have celebrity status, or people who have high positions were in there. And I just kind of was like staying in my corner. And the thing is that I could see they were starting this party, like they were starting some party, some sort of celebration. There were like wine in gold sort of like glass, gold, what do you call it, gold cups or whatever. Yeah, gold, yeah, there you go. There was stuff from, it seemed a lot of Grecian sort of stuff, and even it's like they had collected stuff from different eras to put it in there. And I was just like in my corner like that, and the man walks over to me and he said to me, you know that a soul that loves and that is loved cannot be held. It's free as a bird to go in any dimension. He said the lower dimensions can't hold those souls. And I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, don't you see? He said, don't you see how old I am? And I realized, even though he didn't look old, he was very old. Like, he was very, very old. And he's like, he said, we wish to have love and give love, but don't you understand that is not our job? That's not our job in the universe. Our job appointed is this, for us to be here. And then he looked at, and he said to me, he pointed over and he said, do you see? And I said, oh, all these people started to party. It was something like a bit like out of Coagula, you know? It was like all of the pleasures of the world were in this room and everything. And he said, look, he said, would you give up your love? And would you give up what you love for any of this? And I said to him, no, I wouldn't do that. And he said, that's a good answer, my dear. He said, you can pass. And then he walked over to what seemed like some sort of bed, velvet red bed or something like that. He laid down on it, and his queen obviously went and laid down next to him, and they were watching everybody party and drink and everything. And he turned into the Minotaur. Half man, half Minotaur, the beast. Then I realized that passing through the dimensions I was just encountering one of the guardians. And the guardians they test you, and they're there to make sure that the souls who aren't supposed to don't pass. So that was a bit of a hotel to pass to other dimensions, a bit of a resting place. So I then went out of that room, huge ballroom or whatever it was, and went back to the hallway to go back to my room, and I encountered the Grim Reaper, who was quite comedic, by the way. He's like a comedian, but he seemed to be very bored of his job. He says to me, he says, you're safe, guest here. He says, you're safe to pass. But he says, you know, I have to come here because anybody who there's always souls who try to pass to the higher dimensions from the lower dimensions. They always try to pass. And he knows, so he walks through the hallways every so long and finds the guest room, and he brings them back where they're supposed to. And he's like this. He seemed very bored of his job, and he's like, there is a guest this time that I have to go and get. And it was like, okay. So from that experience, I realized is that when traveling, there are these guardians, and if you are not truly sincere in your heart and truly sincere in your soul, you will get thrown back down to the lower frequencies and be perpetually stuck there if you don't do the right steps. So that was my encounter with these guardians, which was very, very interesting. I do believe that all of this was leading to my experience that I had with Garuda, which is what I found out his name to be. Yesterday I was just I think I posted it on my Facebook. Yesterday I was just cleaning up, and I put a lot of Celtic music on because I really like it, and I'm able to stream energy with that. And I heard clicking noise, like a woodpecker makes a clicking noise like that. Like, okay, what's this clicking noise? So it's just actually right here. I have this old vintage mirror, and I kind of do stuff in front of it. And I was like organizing some of the stuff that I needed to organize, and I heard this clicking noise, and I turned around. I saw this humanoid bird creature who was very beautiful. He had rainbow-colored feathers. This was just dancing around, making this clicking noise, and asking me to come interact with him. Initially, I can be stubborn sometimes with these things because I experienced them so much. I went ahead and just ignored him just for briefly. I was like, listen, I have to finish doing a bit of housework. and I do want to finish like doing my meditation. He wouldn't stop. He was just dancing around everywhere, like very, very energetic being, and he just wanted me to sort of get up and sort of dance. And you know, I want to say too that dance is very important. I'll explain that in a bit. If you feel like dancing, you obviously should do it, because the energy, it moves energy. So he was beckoning me, and I'm actually right now pulling up to read to you about this being, because this is the being I encountered. He was beckoning me to get up and dance. So I finally gave in, and I sort of had a telepathic conversation with him. I could literally see him like dancing around, because I'm able to see through the dimensions. So I was dancing around with him, and then as I went downstairs, he followed me, and we were just like having a good interaction together. And he was very, very happy that I danced around with him, and I cleared out some energies. And also, when he did that, I felt like he was helping me and putting like more good energies into me. So I was like, okay, this is really, really good, you know. And when I encounter these beings, by the way, because I haven't went to school, I haven't studied a lot of stuff, I just encounter these beings, then I'll go Google like bird humanoid creature, you know, then I'll come find them. So initially, after that experience, I told the people close to me about it, and I'm like, it was a very amazing experience. And I believe that because I went through the higher vibrations, I went past the guardian, I was then able to encounter this higher being, because I've been doing so much work in the dimensions. So I'm pretty sure because of that. So then I Googled humanoid bird creature, and I came up with Garuda, and I want to go ahead and read this. Garuda is the king of the birds and often acts as a messenger between the gods and men. Garuda has the head, wings, talons, and beak of an eagle, and the body and limbs of a man. Okay, Garuda's mother was Vinyata, and his father was Kasayapa, if I'm pronouncing that right. The law-minded grandfather of the world, who did tapas at the banks of Lamanita. When Garuda crawled out of his egg, he was very hungry. His mother sent Garuda to get advice from his father, who sent him to a place where he could find food. Garuda could eat Initially, Garuda went to find food. One second, let me put this, sorry. Okay, this is it. This is what I'm pulling it up right now. Okay, so this is what I want to speak about right here. This is the part that I've just pulled up. Probably months ago, I had a dream about the Nagas, or the snake beings, that were connected to Mars, and when happened on Mars, and how that the sun was going to light up the DNA and burn these beings that were from lower dimensions. The serpent beings, I do believe it's tied to the Alpha Draconis and stuff like that. This is very interesting because I had dreamed the word Nagas, then I Googled it and found out that the Nagas were a serpent race that were not a good serpent race at all, and they were battling the good beings, and that's a lot of Hindu culture is about that, about a huge war that happened, and it even depicts UFOs and stuff like that, which is very interesting. And I think it even talks about Orgon, the Hindu culture. They made some sort of like Orgonite things to battle these serpent creatures that were coming down in ships, which is very, very interesting. I think it's very ancient, closely tied to the reptilian and the long ships, by the way, the cigar-shaped ships, which I've encountered. Okay, so Garuda's mother, Vinyata, became imprisoned by Kadru, mother of the serpents. Garuda sought to release her. As a ransom, the serpents demanded the cup of Amrita. I do believe that that's connected to the Holy Grail, which was held by the gods. Garuda took the cup from the gods, and so he could liberate his mother. Just as the serpents were about to drink from the Amrita, Indra snatched the cup away from them. Nevertheless, a few drops were spilled and licked up by their serpents, which made them immortal and also split their tongues. Okay, so this is the thing. I believe that this is also a bit of the same story as Thoth and the serpents. There's some sort of correlation between this being and Thoth and Horus, also Horus known to be have the bird being, and there's a correlation to Thoth with that. And Thoth talks about the serpent beings that walk among humans as humans themselves. The thing is that after encountering this being, I felt like he is a protector for me against the Nagas, or the serpent beings, and so it was very positive. And I believe that he's so powerful against them because of the fact that it's like the multicolored feathers were symbolic of all of his chakras, everything being lit up on him. So he was a very high being that can obviously defeat serpents. So I thought that he also came to help protect me against anything that wanted to cause me harm. And I do believe as we do work, and we really show that we sincerely want to change ourselves and we sincerely want to do what's right, that these beings just come on their own and come and try to help us out. And they're very happy about it, and they're very amazing. It was an amazing encounter. It left me like blissful all day long after that. But that's pretty much all my experiences that I had these last 3, 4, 5 days. You know, I have countless other experiences, but I also wanted to talk about how honesty really is important, and if you want to manifest anything in life, and if you want people to be honest, you need to be honest yourself, even for small things. Yesterday I was at the store, and there was something that I got for 80p, and then there was something I got for £1.50, and when the girl she at the cash register went to ring up my shop, and she couldn't find the price on the £1.50 article, and she went to ring it up as 80p like the other article, and I said to her, no, it's £1.50. She looked at me so shocked that I was tell her that, and she said, well, honesty rules today. And I think that when we do small things like that, we are within our aura, and within our exchanges, we are telling the universe that, yes, we like honesty. We will be honest, and we will, because we deserve honesty, and others deserve honesty from us. So I did want to throw that in there, because that was quite an experience. She seemed so shocked about it, and nowadays, I think people are just shocked when you're quite really honest. It's not something that you run into every day, and if we want to do change, I think honesty too is a really, really good policy for everybody. I'm going to start now answering some of the questions. I don't think I can get through them all because there are so many questions, by the way, which is lovely, and I will try to get through as many as I can. But there are so many questions, I think I'm just going to be overwhelmed. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start with the top here. Okay, so Christine says, the possibility of a collective subconscious. Okay, so definitely everything is connected, first of all. And I lost my post. Definitely everything is connected, first of all. You know, everything is, in the end, I believe, it's all here to make us, bring out the best in us. Literally, there's souls of us who've come here so that we can literally be refined like gold. As for collective consciousness, I think it's a really good idea, but I also have a bit of issues with that because everybody is unique. And here, let me try to pull it up again. Sorry about that. Okay. The possibility of a collective subconscious, by the way. So what I can say is when I've come through the sun, by the way, to get here already, and then I went to different planets, I went through different incarnations, it's quite extensive. I want to say that in the higher realms, everybody's connected. They speak through emotions, and that they are experiencing a collective subconscious. If a being isn't well, then all the rest know, and then they can go and help. So there's never any being that's unwell. Now, to have experiences, they'll go down to other places and stuff like that, but they always return to that spot, and it's a bit of very peaceful and blissful and beautiful thing, and sometimes I do miss being there. But I would say that the higher beings, or the ones who are in the higher dimensions, have achieved a collective subconscious. They're all connected on a subconscious level. They're all connected on a subconscious level. On a conscious level, they're all connected. So if something's wrong, everybody goes and takes care of it. So perpetually, everything is always flowing with the universe and flowing very beautifully. As for 3D Earth, I think that right now we are experiencing both, and this is about, at least in this realm, it's about finding balance with both. I believe that there's two consciousnesses that people are tapping into, the darker one and the lighter one they're tapping into, and that there's a bit of a battle between both of them. And that's why when you go around somebody who is tapped into the darker subconscious, you feel drained, and then they're not so well around you, they're not cool with you, you know. So I believe that there's those two consciousnesses, and I believe that we're in this world to find balance between those. Like I said, probably that's why they use the checkerboard pattern. They always use the checkerboard pattern, you know, the black and whites, the two consciousness, the dark consciousness and the light consciousness. So initially, it's about us finding balance here. So that's what I want to say about that question. Okay, Jason says, the cosmic wave, the Bermuda Triangle, Atlantic Lemuria, Blood Moon, Mount Shasta, Ayahuasca, to name a few. Okay, so cosmic wave, I mean, the sun is lighting up, the planets are all aligning, they're all giving out their tunes. To me, that's my interpretation of the cosmic wave that's happening right now. The chemtrails, like I said last time, are just to try to block that out, which isn't going to work very, very well. The Bermuda Triangle is a portal, by the way. I believe that it's a portal to different timelines and different dimensions. There's a couple of places around the world that I believe are like that. Okay. The blood moon, I believe, is also tied to all of the cosmic wave and stuff. I believe there's a lot of fear porn put around a lot of cosmic stuff when it shouldn't be fearful at all. It's actually waking people up and doing different stuff to their DNA. It shouldn't be feared at all. It's funny because I've read some darker stuff about the blood moons not long ago, and I wouldn't worry about that stuff at all. The universe is set in a sort of clock, and it's perfect. Every little thing that happens is totally perfect, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. I do believe that the blood moons have some positive energies that they also are putting into our DNA. Mount Shasta, you know, I've been to Mount Shasta and I had some very intense experiences there. One which I will eventually explain about because it will take too long, about the time traveling wizards that I saw that were traveling interdimensionally to try to steal different relics so that they could get power. I also saw the Bigfoot at Mount Shasta, and I had some very beautiful encounters with the Indians in another dimension that were apparently with the Bigfoot. They have some treaty going on, so I will definitely have to speak about that eventually because that experience will take me quite a while to explain about. As for ayahuasca, I have never experienced ayahuasca. The stuff I experience, I've experienced since a child, so I wouldn't know about that. I do know that people have healed from drugs. They have healed from depression through ayahuasca. It's not something that I would ever count out. I do sometimes want to go and just watch a shaman do it and watch how it's done and see the results so I can see myself. I don't think that I necessarily take it myself because I don't think I need it. I think that my body is running that at a well enough vibration. It doesn't need that. I don't have a feeling that I need that. Some people I do believe really do need it because it really makes them have an experience that changes their whole life. And I know people who it's positively changed their whole life. So I think that it can be definitely a positive thing. Okay, as for Project Pegasus, funny because I just talked about, David is asking about Project Pegasus right now. Funny because I just said about the Pegasus, me mountain back of Pegasus right there. Okay, let's see. This is a long one. Are you aware of Andrew? But how do you pronounce the last name? Andrew I'm gonna get people upset if I don't pronounce Andrew Basagio. How's that? You know?
No.
How do you?
Oh, Andrew Basago.
Yes. He is part of Project Pegasus teleportation experiments as a child when he asked a question about actually how he got back in real time. Andrew answered, I was exposed to 8 different modalities of time travel in Project Pegasus. Of the 5 modalities that effectuated physical time travel, the teleporter, the chronovisor, the stargate, the plasma confinement chamber, and the jump room. 3, the teleporter and stargate and jump room required a complementary device as the destination to get back to the present. And 2, the chronovisor and the plasma confinement chamber did not require such a return device, but instead the quantum effects simply wore off and we were spontaneously returned to the present. I wonder what your thoughts on teleportation are, sir. Okay, so this is I will go ahead and answer this question. First of all, I've never spoken to Mr. Basagio, if that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that name. I have read a little bit of this stuff. Like I said, I have so much experiences and I try not to taint them with reading stuff. Since a younger age, I have experiences and memories of being put in the Montauk chair. I also have experiences, yes, of teleportation and even of jump rooms on the top of skyscrapers. You know where they have all the antennas and stuff at? Literally jump rooms. I had an experience where I literally woke up and it was raining and I was in some sort of not chair, but I was in some sort of thing. There were electroid sort of things on me. I was at the top of this skyscraper and the rain had woke me up and I could see that they were they were teleporting people out, and I believe to Mars, from what I understand, they were doing that. I've been in the jump rooms. I don't remember the plasma confinement chamber. I do know that when they teleport you or when they do different stuff like that, it does physical harm to the body and can be quite draining, and it can make your cells so that they are unstable, and it also can at times it can leave radiation. I found that after having experiences, I had issues with radiation, and that's why I started to take green clay to get rid of radiation and doing lots of work on myself. I was quite a bit, I experienced this quite a bit, and I was used quite a bit for this. I do believe because it's the psychic abilities that I have, and I have so many off-world experiences, and I will definitely have to talk about them. I have been through stargates too. I actually know where there are a couple of stargates around the United States that are hidden in plain sight. To finish this, they were using. They used the chair. There was some sort of electrodes, but I don't quite remember them using devices. I remember lots of crystal. They were using lots of crystal technology. At least the Montauk chair that I saw, they were definitely using crystal technology. I think technology that goes all the way back to Atlantis somehow that they got. I'm still not sure how they do that, because when I was younger, I remember they would take me and I would be off planet or something like that, and then be zoomed back, a blue light would come, like a flash, and I'd be back with my mother, and I knew I would have been gone like a year or something. So I'm still trying to figure out how they do that exactly. I do know they have like time control technology, so I think that they're doing stuff like that. Like they can maybe take you from another timeline and put you there and take you, you know, so they can switch around or something like that. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I do believe that they can't do it unless they have technology. I do believe that there are some people out there who have the genetics to time travel or do stuff like that. I don't want to speak too much about that. I know a couple of people who can do that, and like I said, changing timelines is it's something that they really, that's what they want to do. I think, what was that movie with Bruce Willis and there was some movie that came out a couple of years ago. It had Gordon and Joseph Levitt, and it was about time where they were trying to change timelines. They had literally these time guys that would go back and change the timelines so that the bad guys could stay in power. And I believe that that's what they're doing. I really believe that's what they're doing. They're trying to change timelines so that they can have the best possible positions. But it's not working, because I believe there are people from very ancient bloodlines that are battling them, that are actually higher beings and bodies that are also have come here to battle them, and they literally can time travel without using that. I believe that they use different people for different stuff, people to create natural disasters. If people are angry, there's some people who have control over the elements that are very gifted. They could create a tornado, they can create, so I do believe that there's that sort of stuff, and now I believe more and more will come out. I will definitely speak about the experiences I had with time travel and teleportation and stuff like that in just one of the blog episodes. I'll just talk about that, like I'll talk about Shasta, but hopefully that did help you a little bit, because I've experienced quite a bit of that, and whenever I was able to like remove the contracts they had energetically on me, then they weren't allowed to use me anymore for that stuff. But they definitely tried, and that's when they get upset and they will try to send in what I call gatekeepers to get you back. So because I'm able to battle the gatekeepers, like I said, or to surpass the gatekeepers, then they can't do very much of anything. But I will speak about that definitely later. Dan said, I would be very interested in hearing anything that you may have on the origin of RH negative blood and the difference between the RH groups. You know, I know quite a bit about blood types, but I know somebody who's very good on this subject who I think would probably know more about it, and it would be Max, because that's his area of study. So you might want to go ahead and ask him, or sometime I can have him on here and we can just talk about blood types and he will just speak all about that. He'd probably be a better person to answer this than me, by the way. So I will definitely get him on here sometime. That way he can go ahead and just speak all about that. Okay, Max Albert says, are there only evil forces here on Earth, or are the good ones? No, they're not only evil forces here on Earth at all. Like I said, it's about finding a good balance. There are lots of good forces on Earth. I mean, how does it go? You see God, you see goodness every day in the smile of a child or in a small bird. That's where you see there's beauty everywhere. It depends what you're looking for. Like I said, be aware of the darkness, but also ponder mostly on the good things here on Earth. Go look at the ocean. Don't tell me there's no goodness when you can't see how beautiful the ocean is. There's a lot of goodness here on Earth. This thing, you just have to look for it. Okay. John says, different alien races that you are aware of. Oh, goodness. There are bird-like beings, there are aquatic creatures that I've encountered, Syrian sort of blue beings. It would be extensive. I will have to also just speak all about that. You really can't go fairies, small fairies. If I lose my keys or I lose something, and I'm like, oh guys, please bring it back, the fairies, they'll bring me it back, and I'll just find it sitting there. So, I mean, when you're talking about species, even to me, like the trees are alive. They're very, very alive and very expressive. Plants are everything's a bit expressive. Then you have all these beings. It's I'll definitely just have to talk all about that too, because that will take like probably an hour to talk about all these different beings. I think people try to, oh well, there's only maybe this many. No, you have no idea the different dimensions, the different levels. There's so many beings. There's so much life in the universe. There's so much life in the dimensions. There's so much life around. You can't sit there and say, well, how many are there? It's like a bit infinite. They're very sometimes I see very interesting things. When I was younger, I encountered the little goat creature. You know, he's got like goat legs and little horns. That's like half humanoid, and he was trying to be all mischievous, and I caught him. I was like, okay, stop being mischievous. When I was younger, there's all sorts of beings. So you've got lots of the ancient quote myths about these beings are actually true, and they knew that back then, and that's why they knew that, you know. And now we're like, oh, they're just myths. They were just worshiping gods or deities or whatever. But no, they really existed, and people were aware of it, because I think back then that they did have maybe the abilities to see these things and interact with these things, and they were aware about it, so they wrote about it. And now it's like everybody's like it's myths, when actually it's not. People are just most of the world are functioning at so lower energy vibration, they are not allowed to access these things. So I mean, you're not going to access anything magical until you take the steps to, anyhow. Okay, Teresa says, these are great topics, thank you. Gabby said, would be very interested, Sarah, on your thoughts on death. Do you think we are meant by a spirit who weighs our soul in balance with the feathers the Egyptians did? Do we look over our lives and return to earth if we have unresolved karma, or more lessons to learn? Where we go straight after death? Gabby, from what I experienced and what I understand is that, yes, and that's why it's important our deeds on earth. It's very important. Even you might not return here. If you're a person who's murdered and murdered over and over again, then you might go to a lower dimension, and you will have to work very hard to get back up to this one. You know, it's no small toll for hurting others, and I think that's where I'm against the New Age love and light to everybody thing, because it's saying you can get away with being a harmful, horrible person, which isn't true. You do have choice. Whether we want to say it or we don't, we do have choice to wake up, to be our own pilots, and to take on the things in the world. I do believe it is like the Egyptians, where your soul is, where your soul is measured, and if it's got goodness, it's allowed to pass. Just like I said about the Minotaur, where he's one of the guardians, and he said, well, that my soul was allowed to pass. So I do believe this. I do believe people who have unresolved karma do return to Earth, or people who are here for missions return to Earth. Some leave and some come back. I've left and I've came back. If you have unresolved karma and more lessons to learn, yes, you will most likely. The thing is that really, if you do the work now, and you really understand, if you really do the work now, then you go ahead and overcome that. Then you don't have to return the cycle. The thing is that so many people, I do believe that up to 7 generations, that the gunk from those people, from our ancestors, from our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, stays with us. And until we heal that, we release their souls, we release ours, It's almost like a chain of people holding on to you energetically from your grandmothers, grandfathers, whatever. If they haven't taken the steps to clear their karma, it's like holding on to you. And so once you clear all of that, you clear your soul energy, and you will be fine. You'll be able to pass. But I do believe that it affects everybody around you, that it affects your children, it affects people that you're in love with and everything. So by cleaning that up, you will have less disease, you will actually be able to ascend out rather than to be recycled back here. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. You said you can't wait for my new blog. Kathy said, I would like to know about dreams and why a person dreams into the future and sees things days before it happens. Is it a sign to confirm the dreams are warnings? How does a person dream? How does a person know future events if the person has never been to the future? Also, different patterns and shapes in dreams. Okay, so I think that I was talking about, on my last vlog, I talked about that movie that had Bruce Willis in it, that where he had these abilities to see what was going to happen beforehand. You know, if somebody was just like brush near him, he could sense if they were going to go harm somebody. And he was a very depressed person until he started following that and helping out the people that were going to be harmed. And in the end, he sees these two little children, and then he's like, I'm not depressed anymore, because that was his sole mission on earth, was to help others. I believe if you're getting those sort of dreams, that they are definitely information to help you out, and you should definitely write them down. I also believe that that is a very special gift, and it can possibly help you out in some very amazing ways. I've had dreams into the future that's helped me change the future, by the way, because they were saying if you don't do this, then this is going to happen, or if you do this, this is going to happen. So I've had those, and it's been very, very helpful. As for shapes in dreams and patterns, they're all important, but I would really need an in-depth description of what you're seeing and what you're experiencing to help you out more with that. I would write all of this down, and I think you'll see a pattern. And I would also take the information to heart and use it. And if it's showing anything in the future, if somebody's going to be harmed or something like that, or if it's showing even positive things or negative things, do let that guide you, because I believe our dreams are very, very important. I visited, not long ago, I visited a graveyard with a lady, and she's very psychic and very lovely, and I could see it's a very old graveyard. It's hundreds of years old. It's in some Broadstairs, by the way, and I could just sense all the ghosts, see the ghosts. There was like, it's very, very interesting. Then she says to me, like, I saw her a day ago, and she goes to me, you know, I dreamed that we were at the graveyard, me and you were standing there, and I was in front of my gravestone with you, but there was nothing written on my gravestone. And she says to me, but you were there, and you were telling me everything's going to be okay. She asks me after, she goes, what do you think that means? And I said, because she's not doing so well right now, and I feel like she's not doing too well right now, and I know she's having a rather hard time. I said to her, this is what that means. I obviously was, because I have a connection to her, I obviously was there to comfort her and to help guide her with this. I said the reason the gravestone has no date or nothing on it, but you knew it was your grave, is because you were able to change that. If you don't take care of yourself, possibly something drastic could happen to you. Possibly you could die if you don't take care of yourself. But since it didn't have thing, it's saying you have choice right now. It's warning you right now that you really need to take care of yourself. You really need to step up taking care of yourself, and you'll be okay. But it's still warning you right now that there's a chance you're not if you don't. So that dream was very symbolic of that, and dreams often remind us to take positive choices, as warning us of what's going to happen sometimes beforehand, like these sort of dreams. Okay, so Kimberly Mendoza says, what are your thoughts on Planet X or the pole shift? I believe that Planet X was used for quite a bit of fair porn again. I noticed that the Christians use that also. It's just something very, very negative. It seems to be again coming back out, like you said, it's coming back out, you know, after years of it being around. I really don't have too much to say about it other than I know some people who were really obsessed with Planet X years ago, and I didn't dig it, I didn't buy into it, and I didn't worry about it, and honestly, nothing came of it. So it's just, I think Planet X has been used for as a big fair psyop quite a bit, and I'm not too much into that. I will definitely try to research a little bit about it and see if there's anything significant there. As for myself, I know that a lot of people may not agree. I don't think there's anything significant about Planet X, honestly. Okay, the pole shift. I do believe that the Earth is changing, and I do believe that energetically it is. I think everything had been reversed on Earth, including the energies, and that the shift is it realigning to how it originally was. So that's my theory on that. Again, everything that I tell you, they're my experiences. They're also how I see them, and everybody's different. And I don't want people following me. I don't want people to take everything that I say and think that that's just it, because everybody's soul path is different. And I did want to say that you will pick up different stuff than me, because that you're a different being than me. You're going to pick up what's good for you. I'm picking up what's good for me. Like, I'm following my soul path. That's it. My thing of doing this is trying to encourage people to follow their soul paths, and that they can experience all sorts of beautiful things by doing so. Okay, so Stephanie says, stones. I love them and how to feel them and which ones are the best for your abilities. So I have all these stones here. Like I said, I've got some in Glastonbury. I've got some everywhere. I believe that, I went and the first one that I saw, I sensed, I bought. And so they all are very, very beautiful, and they're all very happy together. I would just say go feel with your hands. Oftentimes when I go for vegetables, I just feel with my hands, feel the energy, and that's how you'll know which ones to pick, by the way. And of course, like I said last time, you can just align them on your body, or if you have stomach issues, just align them around your stomach issues, then use the crystals to put in between them so that you can just filter. You can just do a line of energy. If you get on your stomach and put them all along your spine, that does amazing wonders too. Tracy says, are you familiar with Lucis Trust and the Arcane School in New York? Are they connected with the Illuminati? Tracy, I don't quite know about that. I think I've heard about it somewhere. Lucis sounds a bit like Lucifer, which is interesting to me as a bit of a short term. It was like playing around with words. I will definitely have to look into that and get back to you about that. Okay, Tracy says, I want to say you are godsend. You have helped me find peace within myself, so thank you, and I hope that you continue to enlighten and awaken others. Thank you very much. That is very, very lovely. L.J. Hendricks says, I would love to hear you speak on the dragon dynasties as depicted in the sort of family tree diagram. Is this diagram accurate? Any general information or personal stories? Okay, again, I do know quite a bit about the dragon bloodline. This is quite a good depiction, by the way. I think I posted something ages ago similar to this. There's a good article on it I can send you. And again, I think with that, will bring Max in, because he knows a lot of stuff about that. He knows a lot and lots. And he can explain it in a more intricate way than me. That is probably more understandable. So I will definitely ask him to come on and speak about this and the rest is the subject about blood and bloodlines. Sylvie said, there's something I heard you touch on a video before. You described the higher self as floating above the physical self for most people, in a type of disconnection from the physical consciousness that most people experience right now. I have carried that thought with me ever since and would be interested in any thoughts related to that if it is relevant. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I do notice this. I believe that people's souls just aren't directly in their body. They're running off of maybe 20% of their soul energy, 30%, just enough to stay alive and be a bit of slaves in society. If their soul was fully inside of their body and they were the pilot inside of their temple, they would be fully awakened to everything that's happening dimensionally, and they would no longer be slaves to society. And that's my thoughts on that. Spencer says, technomancy, metatellurians, nanobots, portals, Enochian magic, seven spirits before the throne, initiation, mysteries of the tarot trump, called the lovers, aka the brothers, pyramid head technology, various forms of America, above footprints of demons and shadows, move independent of people. Okay. That is quite a lot of questions. That's quite a lot of questions here. So I'm honestly only going to answer a couple of these, otherwise it's going to take me ages again. I have encountered the seven princes. That's tied to the seven spirits before the throne. I've encountered some of the seven princes. By the way, they're very, very powerful beings. I do believe they're also, how can I put this? It's so hard to put some of this stuff in words. I believe they do come up in human form here. I was shown not long ago that many of the ancients to the ancient fallen were in physical form here, and a lot of them are hidden within the Vatican and different religious movements, and all the religious movements are initially controlled by the same ones in the end. I really would probably want to get... I've had an experience with pyramid technology when I was younger. I was brought into the center of some golden pyramid, and it was spinning around me, and I still to this day can't tell you what that meant. I know that it was amazing what I experienced. I also traveled to some pyramid that seemed like it was in Brazil, and it had a jewel within it, and it had arc DNA of every species there was in it. So I know that in Peru somewhere there is a pyramid that holds that. So I've had some different experiences with pyramids, or spinning pyramids, or pyramids that were sort of like gateways to... Okay. Michelle says, since Max reminded us about your tattoo, Isis, I thought it's magical. Your tattoo jumps from the left arm to the right. I love the goddess Isis, but how is it possible in this reality for a tattoo to change arms like that? I've seen tons of stuff like this on YouTube. There are things that I refuse to explain. Just, you know what, just don't worry quite about it. But yeah, you're right, because the tattoo's on this side instead of this side. And it's it's something that I don't want to explain, and I'm probably I should probably take that picture down before it confuses too many people and I have to make an explanation about it. It's not a sticker, it is a tattoo. Every month there's 15/15, by the way. On the 15th 15 with Isis. So Isis in 15/15 is very connected. So this year is very connected to that tattoo, by the way. I would love to know, if possible, Isis 15/15, what does it mean? Like I said, I do stuff and then find out years later, and this is the year of awakening, and it's funny because people do see it. I have people, like the other day, I was in some cafe, I was in Cafe Nero, and there was this very tall man, he had striped eyes, came up to me and said, "Oh, hello, Isis." He's like, "I remember you from Egypt." I'm like, and he had his whole family there, just said hi, it's nice seeing you again, and walked by, and I'm like, okay. He obviously, forget the tattoo, he obviously recognized me apparently from Egypt, so I don't know, I have weird stuff that happens like that. And considering he had like his wife and his children and stuff, it was like, just something very, very strange. Like, okay. I got it, honestly, because I have so many memories of Egypt, so I got that, and I feel a close connection to that energy, and that's why I got that. Okay, just a curiosity, I'm aware of those fake terrorists and don't care about it. My question has nothing to do with the terrorist, ISIS. Oh, you know, it's very interesting, because I think that, you know, this is very interesting. I do lots of work on other realms, and I believe like that the terrorist group ISIS is a psyop set up to initially attack that energy force, to try to send it so much bad energy to initially kind of make the try to change it to the polar opposite, try to change something good into bad. So, but ISIS energy is getting so much negative energy thrown at it. It's a sort of a blasphemy to ISIS that they created that. I do believe that it's a psyop. I traced some stuff back to California. There was a website called a governmental branch website that was called ISIS. Literally, I need to see if I can't still find the website, but I found that, and I believe that was set up. I believe that for the ones who are really doing a lot in this world, they will set up literal psyops to use people's energy at mass to attack them. I think who's really doing stuff will have that sort of thing happen to them. ISIS popped up out of anywhere. Why would they use ISIS too? Why would a terrorist group use the word ISIS, considering, isn't it Muslim? It's Muslim, isn't it Muslim terrorist group or something like that? They don't like Egyptian deities, do they? Why are they using ISIS?
It's reversing something good to make it
But
bad.
why would? Do you understand? They don't believe in that stuff. They don't believe in ISIS. So why would they use an Egyptian goddess? I think it's a whole psyop. I think that it's a whole setup. That's what I think, because it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense about it, and I do believe that they're trying. ISIS was a protector of children and everything like that, and they're trying to reverse that deeply, like really reverse that. And that's what the psyop's supposed to do. Okay, Craig says, my house is built on an old graveyard. Is there anything I should know about that? Yes, there is. Honestly, I would, they obviously can be still accessed in your home since it's built on a graveyard. I generally would probably just sit down with a couple of candles and crystals and